And good afternoon, racing fans. Welcome to Hawthorne Racecourse for a Sunday afternoon of thoroughbred action. Jim Miller and Emily Gullikson up here in our TV studio on the mezzanine level here at Hawthorne. Emily, a little bit of an overcast Sunday. We did have some rain overnight. I wanted to give it as much time as possible before I walked the turf. I jumped out on the turf course about 1 o'clock. Fortunately, we're on. I'd say we're benefited from only having 2 on the grass today, and 1 short and 1 long, but a yielding turf course for the Sunday races.
Excellent, and good call to just kind of wait it out, hope, cross your fingers and hope, because one of those grass races is race 7, which is the high 5 mandatory, and you can see on the screen right there, 185, 460 in that carryover.
And we did a nice deep dive into the high 5 that you heard a little bit before the changes today. We'll talk a little bit more, of course, as we get later on in the day, but $185,000 carryover, mandatory payout, like you said. It's going to be a big pool. It's a really good field. It held together really well, just 1 scratch in the body of the race, so that's a good thing. Turf course is listed as yielding, so it's got a little bit of give to it today. It's one of those, I'm always very cautious on the turf, so I usually play it even more cautiously, so I was pleasantly surprised when I was able to walk out there and say that the turf course was in that yielding condition. So we're okay. I mean, I always like a firm turf course, a good turf course, and then usually, especially earlier on in the meet, I'm much more hesitant to stay on when it has moisture, but it's good enough to run on. It's a little bit later in the meet. Today's a fresh lane too, so I think that is something that benefits as well, just moving that rail in 10 feet.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because it is important, those little changes, because sometimes they can just change a little bit in terms and getting into that lane 10, and then we'll move it again, right?
Right,
One
yep,
more time
2 more weeks, yep.
Yeah, and we're supposed to get rain tomorrow, so I think it's kind of good. We'll try to get this one day in, and keep our fingers crossed for Wednesday and Thursday, because those are great cards.
They're very good cards, yeah.
Excellent cards. Yeah. We've said already, a few Wednesdays ago was like one of the best cards of the meet, and I think these 2 are going to give them a run for its money, because man, those are some excellent races.
The cool thing is we're able to use good quality races. The other cool thing is they're filling on the turf and the dirt. So it's nice as you get near the end of the season, horsemen trying to get that last start or 2 in the end of the season, but it comprises really good race cards, good stake race taking place this week too, a full field of 12 on Thursday. So looking forward to that as well, but we will focus on that over the next couple of days. Also, our staff is spread all over creation this week, because racing at the Illinois State Fair starts this week, and we operate those races. So those begin on Thursday, Friday, Saturday of this week, the following week, Wednesday, Thursday, before we go to Du Quoin. So I'm here Wednesday, I'm here Thursday, I'm in Springfield Friday, I'm in Springfield Saturday before coming back here. So going to be a little bit of a traveling man, but for those that want to tune in, it's 11 a.m. post times for the parimutuel races from Springfield at the Illinois State Fairs. All right, Emily, 7 race card today. Let's jump into the racing action. Track listed as good. It is harrowed and cut open. There is a decent amount of moisture in it though, so track is listed as good. $20,000 claimers in the opener. They go 3/4 of a mile in the first. Field of 6 lines up. Even money favorite is the 5 Kitty McLean, who you kind of figure was going to be the favorite in this spot. So the question, Emily, do you go to that one? Do you look elsewhere? I know you gave a little bit of a look to Mystic Storm as well in this spot.
Yeah, I did. I mean, as far as Kitty McLean just kind of starting there, as we can see currently even money right now, and likely to be favored. She just could have a pace advantage in here with the early speed in that most recent start. She was a little bit fractious in the gate, rushed up. Should be able to clear the other runners in here. Runner's heat is a little bit on the softer side, might try to go, but I don't think she can stick with her. And the same thing for Stormy Empire. We'll just kind of have to see if she comes back off the last. I think that's part of the reason that we're seeing that short price in Kitty McLean, early speed. And we'll have to see how the track plays. And then as far as Mystic Storm is one that just could have a slight class edge in here. A little bit cautious when you see those layoff lines in there. Always creates some reservations, but we're seeing 6 to 1. I think that's a little bit of value to mess around. Probably going to need some pace to target for her best, but we'll hope the class and just staying a little bit closer. Victor Santiago can be aggressive, has that inside draw. So if she's kind of in striking range, she's got a shot. And if there's some combination of 1-5 in the opener, that'll be just a couple more bucks for the Bernies.
Yes, Bernies has been doing very good. Bets for books taking place throughout the course of the month of August. We've done well the first couple of days, getting some money back for them. Every $2 we win is another book that goes into the hands of Chicagoland kids. So hopefully we can keep it rolling for Bernie's Book Bank. My wager is going to be in race number 5 today. You've done a very good job of spreading out throughout the course the cards, hitting some exactas, getting a nice return. I'm sure the big score is just around the corner, hopefully. So
it could be in race 7.
It could be in race 7 with the high 5, so that would be really cool. Kitty McLean is a horse that you get Manny Esquivel aboard. Manny's done very well whenever he's come here to ride throughout the course of the meet. 2 starts on a wet track, 2 times on the board as well, and I did go with the favorite there in race number 1. Race 2 today starts the 50-cent early pick 4, just a 15% takeout on the pick 4. $16,000 claimers, not winners of 2 lifetime. They go 3/4 of a mile. Scratch the 3 Balladine in this spot. That was a horse that was going to be in with a huge shot. You have that field of 5. The question is, what do you do with the 2, a Bourbon Spirit? This one in from the barn of trainer Brad Cox, Manny Esquivel aboard. I mean, had to be really high on this horse early on in his career last year, the first 2 starts. I mean, they asked a lot of the horse, and the horse responded. Last 2, not great. Now you drop in for the tag. That's a big question mark. So I think 1 of 2 things happens. The horse wins by the length of the stretch, or the horse has an off day and somebody else comes up and runs.
Yeah, that's definitely the way you're going to have to approach it. And because of those connections that you mentioned, Esquivel riding well, going to be a horse. I looked at the doubles earlier. Going to be one of the favorites in the race. I don't know if they'll be favorites. Money's kind of jumping around a little bit, but likely to be a short price in there. So at a short price, there are those reasons to have the reservation, making some changes. But the one thing I think they're going to be aggressive in here. And so it does kind of look like Gallant Buck is going to be the lone speed. But if the Bourbon Spirit goes out there and tries to press him, we'll see how the track plays in race 1. There could be a pace battle in here. Yeah, Balladine was going to kind of be the way. I thought that horse was live last time. Was going to give it another look. So I'm going to shift over and give a chance to table money, just kind of hoping that this horse is in the right type and place, a very inconsistent type, but should be a price. And if I'm trying to go maybe against those 2 horses, initially I didn't really have a knock on Gallant Buck. I think he's going to be a little bit shorter now. Table money, I think, will be square.
Yeah, and Gallant Buck was where I ended up in the spot. The horse, another one that's been pretty good on a wet track, Bourbon Spirit, 1 start on a wet track, but that was in that debut last July. Probably a different racehorse since that time, but that was over a sealed muddy track as well. I am hoping Gallant Buck shows that speed and can possibly clear and wire the field. We'll see how things unfold, but when you have a horse that's going to be a likely very heavy favorite, they're going to have that horse in the race early on. So have to expect that Bourbon Spirit will be in the mix too. Race number 3 got hurt a little bit by scratches. Take out the 6, Hurt So Bad, and the 7, Jack Van Berg. Both of those horses completely changed the pace scenario of this race, Emily. It's now a field of 5 to head postward. So for you, where do you look, especially after you have those scratches and the race complexion changes a little bit?
Well, you say it's unfortunate with the scratches unless you're the connections of Wildwood Secret, because they look to be lone speed now, especially from the inside. It was a little bit against coming back on short rest off a perfect trip, but given this scenario, given the complexion of this field, could just have that pace advantage in their favor.
That has been really good. This is a horse that ran a very nice race in the last out. Emmanuel Giles back aboard today. Giles has rode the horse to both victories on the meet. Should be forwardly placed from the inside. I kind of have a soft spot in my heart for the 11-year-old gelding, the 4, Nio Man. This is a horse that's making its 102nd career start. 40th start here at Hawthorne, and you look at the record, this is a horse that's hit the board in 29 out of 39 starts over this racetrack.
So cool.
He's cool.
I was telling you the other day, I was like, he belongs at Old Friends. Whenever he decides to stop racing, which right now, he's still competitive. You have him picked on top, and if you don't have him on your ticket, you should be scared of him, because he's a professional racehorse.
He is. He's got a chance to go over 300,000 in career earnings, so he's done pretty well for his connections, because he's had to battle the whole way around. But Nio Man, the horse that I like there in race number 3. 4th race on the card, to the turf. 5.5 furlongs on the yielding turf course. Scratch the 4, Lotta Kalina. Field of 6 to line up in this spot. 15, a non-2 company. Interesting race here, Emily, because you have some horses that are good on turf, some horses that are unknowns on turf. Magna Massa was the route that I went in here, just because I think on the class alone, this is a horse that could be a factor. But I know you gave a little bit of a look to Sunset Painter as well.
I gave a look to both those horses, to be honest. Yeah, for the same reason on Magna Massa, probably just getting that class relief that should be in the right spot in order to compete. As far as Sunset Painter, she's one I've just been kind of waiting for her to get back to that debut that showed a lot of ability. I know it was a maiden claiming race up at Golden Gate, but she's just always been in kind of the wrong spot. Some of those route races at Oaklawn Park, some stakes races. This should be the right spot, at least to try to get her some confidence in here. Lotta Kalina was the other one, but she's out, so I'm kind of leaning on those two. It was a little bit against Move It Baby, but with the scratch, I think she kind of just moves up naturally. Just thought she'd be a short price.
Right, and she's going to be a short price. I mean, it's good connections, a horse with speed, but I'm with you. Magna Massa's faced some really tough company. This is a horse that I think finds things a little bit easier. The big question mark is how the horse is going to handle the turf course. We'll see what happens, but a solid racehorse, and I did go to Magna Massa in the 4th. 5th race on the card, Illinois Maiden Allowance runners. They go 3/4 of a mile in this spot. Field of 7 to line up in here. I had a tough time making the line, and I may have been off. Sawyer Fox could be the one that ends up going favored just off those last 2 drills at Keeneland. debuted against Stakes Company, but has been away since that start. You have some other horses that have run some decent races, but I didn't think there was any standout in this race, Emily. And that's the reason I came back to Sawyer Fox in this spot. That's the one I'm backing for Bernie's book bank today.
Excellent. Yeah, I think Sawyer Fox will be favored in here for the connections. We've also seen a lot of the Catalano runners just get heavily backed. So where that money's coming from, and usually when it does, it's been pretty right on. So I would expect that. And also a horse just has some upside. I mean, the debut being in Stakes Company, watching that race showed a little bit of run, wasn't quite to that level, obviously had a little bit of setback, but they picked the spot, sending out some live runners. So I would think that this would be the right time and place for Sawyer's Fox to break through. El Mucho is another one I give a look for, almost kind of the same angles. They just, as far as where this horse was placed last year, 2 stakes races, so maybe they thought something of this horse, not quite on the level, breaking slow in those races. And then the maiden special weight race, he's facing Open Company, so it's just a new face, getting State Bred Company, coming back off those races. We just don't know how good either of those horses are, but this would be the time to find out. Yeah,
and you run into a race like this, we have a couple of horses in JJ Solution, Rocket Man Attacker, who are going to take some action, but have had so many opportunities and just haven't been able to get that victory. They both could be there in the end, but it's one of those where just when you're kind of that career maiden, you want to look to some of the more lightly raced racehorses. So I'm with you as well there in race 5. 6th race on the card. This is a good race here too. $40,000 optional claimant allowance company. They go a mile and 70 yards. Field of 7 lines up here. Gun Rush has been awesome throughout the course of the meet. So horse that's won 5 in a row. Looks for its 6th right now for trainer Jim Watkins, but just very solid each and every time out. We'll see what happens with the step up in class, but the horse is deserving of the try today too.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you got to test him at some point. He's been perfect this season, looking for that 6th straight win, and also perfect on the dirt. Since they moved in the dirt, he's shown different dimensions. He's gotten faster. He's toyed with his rivals. He's a major threat. I think he's like horse of the meet right now.
He's a cool, he's a cool racehorse.
He's horse of the meet because he's just been, stepping up and doing what needs to be done, doing it the right way. Now, he has had some favorable scenarios. Last out, getting those scratches was able to allow him to get that lone lead. But again, he's a tough customer. I think probably his biggest threat. I think you see it the same way in number 6, Soul Coaxing, just in terms of class. But I think those two just kind of stand out in this field and take a big effort from any of the others to try to beat either one of them.
And just looking at the trip, I mean, Moment should be forwardly placed. Boca Boy should be forwardly placed, and is a classy racehorse. Soul Coaxing probably gets that stalking trip, but Gun Rush has been able to run away from other horses throughout the course of the meet, and he could do so once again. Like I said, he's awesome here at Hawthorne. He ran in the slop in their last out. That didn't bother him, so a track with some moisture in it won't bother him either. He's been solid. I just went for a little bit more of a price. That's the reason I looked to Soul Coaxing. A little bit of a class edge racing at this level, but this is a solid field. You can go so many different spots there at race number 6. Then in the finale, Jackpot High 5 is no longer a jackpot today. It's just a high 5 because it is a mandatory payout. $185,000 in that carryover for the mandatory payout for the high 5. 7.5 on the turf, so 1 loop around here, Emily. Allowance runners, you only take out Bacaneko, which changes the pace scenario a little bit because that's a horse that could show some speed. Field of 9, it's a good competitive race for that mandatory payout.
Yeah, we showed the video earlier, recorded if you caught it last week and caught it again. I pretty much played the way that I discussed a little bit, just made a little bit of adjustments with one of the speed coming out, upgrading the horse that you like in here, McMoney, a little bit because he's one of those other pace setters that I was trying to go against him, looked at the data, trust your opinion. I'm like, let's not get too crazy here if I'm right in some other spots. But I keyed out of deductions on top, just kind of thinking that it's kind of his race, that if he shows up with that maiden effort, they're all running for second, and there seems like there's some intent. I prefer him with a little bit more upside than the stablemate Simple Logic. And then Star Nation, another horse that I think is just improving and running his race. He's closing, he's galloping out each time. He's in the mix, and the same thing with Russian Hammer. Yeah,
I mean, you have a couple horses coming in out of the Hawthorne Derby into this spot, and the Hawthorne Derby wasn't an easy race. Act the Fool took him around on the front end. The 5 behind were all kind of bunched the whole way around. Out of deductions, really never got clear. Russian Hammer even really didn't get clear until late. Both those horses move up. McMoney, again, it's a paceless race. So this is a horse that might be able to go along, cruise along, go really slowly on the front end. And if that's the case, may be able to kick away in the end. There is some class to the horse, so that's the route that I went. High 5, again, you're going to have some extra time to make your wagers, but make sure you get them in. $185,000 carryover, mandatory payout in the high 5 in race number 7. All right, Emily, let's flip back to the opener here. As in the first, we go 3/4 of a mile as we're 15 minutes to post for race number 1. Win, play, show wagering, just a 12% takeout on all win, play, show wagers here at Hawthorne each and every day. It's the lowest in the nation. Exacta, Trifecta, Superfecta, Double Pick 3, and Pick 5, 15% take on the Pick 5. It's a field of 6 for the opener, Emily. Even money right now on the board on the 5, Kitty McLean. Manny Esquivel aboard this runner today for trainer Tony Granite, so I think that's who we have to start out with in this spot. A couple of races over this Hawthorne strip. The last race, not too bad for Kitty McLean, probably the one that all the bettors are working off of for this spot.
Yeah, and could have a pace advantage. Going back to that race on July 12th, she was very fractious in the gate, off a little bit slow, and then had to rush up for position, wasn't able to make the lead behind the lone chalk winner of that race, Miss Melody, who was very well met in that spot, another one that was coming back off a trip. So Kitty McLean just kind of chased all the way around, but she looks like the one that they're going to have to chase today because she has that positional speed, especially if she's going to be a little bit of a better actor in the gate, get out clean, and I think she's got that first call speed and second call speed, and it's going to take somebody to have to run her down late. Yeah,
you get a good look at her in the paddock right there. It comes from the barn of trainer Tony Granite. Everything that Granite's come and run this meet has been very well intended. He's had a good meet. Manny Esquivel has had a good meet in the saddle when he's come in to ride as well, and he's ridden a whole lot of races over this Hawthorne strip. But this one does make a good impression. Should be able to ride up close. It's really kind of a paceless race in here. Maybe Runner's Heat shows a little bit of speed, but I do think Kitty McLean will be a factor throughout, and I do think this is the horse to beat. But when you're looking at 4 to 5, you have to make that determination if you want to take the 4 to 5 or look elsewhere. I went to that one on top, but some others to look at here, Emily. Let's start with the 1. That's Mystic Storm. Mystic Storm at 5 to 1 on the board. Comes from the barn of trainer Hugh Robertson. Victor Santiago in the saddle today. A little bit of a tough race in that last out, but the prior starts were all pretty good for Mystic Storm.
Yeah, I thought going back to that May 14th race, she was making her first start on the circuit, kind of getting that freshening from the fairgrounds meet, that they were using that allowance race as kind of a prep, just giving her a race over the track, racing where she was going to be protected, and then we'd see her right back in for a claim. Now, we see her back in for a claim, but it's not quite right away. It's been over 2 months, almost 3 months since, which creates that some reservation. But in terms of making that move to claiming company, I think this was the plan all along. That's where she was a little bit more effective when running for the tag at the fairgrounds, so that doesn't bother me. She does have the tendency to break slow a little bit, so that's something to be concerned from the rail. That class edge could step up, put her in position, especially with Santiago aboard. Aggressive rider, getting her in position. Hopefully she's got that run and got her target, Kitty McLean, and has a chance.
Yeah, I don't expect her to be too far back in the spot by any means. I do think that she could be a contender much of the way. So see what Mystic Storm shows us in the spot as well. 3 horse in here is Lucy's Looking Left. Lucy's Looking Left from the barn of trainer Pat Clay, who's had a very good meet also. Julio Felix in the saddle. This one claimed 2 back for 10,000. Ran a pretty good race against Starter Company in their last out. They're in for 20 today. So it's one of those where you go in, okay, if somebody drops a claim on you, that's just fine because you get a good return off the $10,000 claim, but the horse definitely figures in here also.
Yeah, they had to be encouraged off that run. She ran better than I thought she would. I thought she was kind of being protected, and they were just using that route race, again, to kind of give her a race. We're going to come back in a more reasonable spot. She ran well. She saved ground. She ended up closing late. Not much in terms of the gallop out, but that's not going to matter here. She's cutting back to 6 furlongs. In terms of a top effort, she's going to need it, just as far as that slight step up where she's been more competitive for a little bit lower level, but in form right now. 3 to 1's a little bit short, and then you also have to take in consideration trip, because as she is cutting back, she's likely to sit a little bit further off the pace. Just another thing to consider in terms of value. Yeah, 9 starts over this Hawthorne strip, 8 times on the board, pretty good at the distance, so it's just one of those where you have to see if there is enough pace scenario to run at. She looked pretty good on the walkover. You see her just a touch late coming into the paddock here, but she is coming into the paddock right now. So braided as always. You see a lot of the braided horses there for trainer Pat Clay too, with Lucy's Looking Left. 4 horse in here at 8 to 1 is Stormy Empire. Stormy Empire from the barn of Frank Kirby. I'm shocked at this price. I don't think this horse should be 8 to 1. I don't think the horse should be the longest price on the board. I thought the horse was going to be one of the favorites because Stormy Empire is pretty classy, solid over the racetrack. You do pick up Javier Tavares in the saddle today, but he rode this horse to a victory last December. I think this horse is being completely overlooked in this spot today. Yeah, I think the only concern is obviously the layoff. Typically, she's kind of needed to race off the layoff, but a lot of those times she's just been running against tougher. So it's just going to really come down to how prepared she is for this race. And running for a tag, she hasn't run for a tag for a long time. She's been running in allowance company for all those races earlier this year. She started off where she had some good form. That form started to tail off, so I don't really mind the layoff, just kind of getting her a reset. And then in terms of the class, this is probably the right spot. Again, my biggest concern with her is whether she's just going to be ready to run her race off the layoff, or maybe she needs one, but we're also kind of running out of time. I don't know when that other race would come.
Yeah, exactly, and that's the thing. So you kind of just try to find those spots where you can get that chance to run. So come in here and we'll see what Stormy Empire shows us. I think Larry Ravelli just won a race on the grass over at Ellis Park. That was a good field there too, but that horse won on the front end on the turf. So congrats to them. The 2-horse in here is Judy's Miss Officer. Alexis Centeno aboard for trainer Mark Crystal. It was a 3rd place effort at a similar level in that last out in the slop. So again, horse that can handle a little bit of a wet track. 3 starts on the wet surface on its career, one of those being a victory. But another one I'll be curious to see. I think they probably settle back a little bit early on, but should be moving forwardly in the lane.
Yeah, typically one that sits back and makes a run. That's typically where she likes to do her running, have a target in front of her. Also kind of prefers to be outside horses, so it's going to have to kind of move out and get away from runners from that kind of middle inside post there. Trip was kind of the same concern as far as Judy's Miss Officer with Lucy's looking left. It's a lot of words for a couple horses. But, you know, just getting that trip. And that's something to factor just in terms of value. But I think she's going to run her race.
Yeah, I do as well. And then lastly, let's touch on the 6 runners heat. Not as much because of the 27-1, but because of the fact that this is a horse that could possibly upset the apple cart when it comes to pace. The horse has the ability to show a little bit of speed at times. I think that's their best chance, although it was a victory 3 starts back, finished 2nd in that last out. Now this is a bit of a step up in class. I don't think the horse is deserving of 27-1, but I think this is a horse that could be a part of the pace scenario today.
I would say she should be almost close to double that. I think she's just much slower than the other horses in here. This is a big step up in class for her. As far as showing early speed, I think they're going to try. I just don't know if they're quick enough to run with Kitty McLean early on. Could be in a chasing mode. Again, I just think this is too tough of a spot for her. Her numbers are just softer than some of the others in the field.
Yeah, we'll see how things unfold in here as they're going to get ready to head out shortly here for race number 1. Is in the first. You offer win, play, show, exacta, trifecta, superfecta, double pick 3, and a pick 5 wagering. Good luck to you with your selections. Horses heading out shortly for the opener.
Racing fans, those of you just arriving, this first race starts the rolling daily doubles, rolling pick 3s, and the 50-cent pick 5. There are no changes in race 1. Second race starts the 50-cent early pick 4, and today's pick 6 carryover, $1,020. We welcome the Curtis family birthday celebrations. Scratch number 3, Balladine, scratch 3, Balladine. Third race, scratch 6, Hurt So Bad, and scratch 7, Jack Van Berg. Third race, scratch 6, Hurt So Bad, scratch 7, Jack Van Berg. Fourth race, turf yielding. Rails are set at 10 feet out. It starts the late pick 4, no changes in the 4th, and there are no changes in race 5. The dirt track is listed as good. The turf is listed as yielding with the rails set at 10 feet out. Today, the 7th race is highlighted by the Jackpot High 5 mandatory payout. It's not a jackpot today, of course. So the mandatory payoff on the high 5 on race 7 today. 5 minutes till post for race 1. Coming on the track for the Sunday opener, they'll go 6 furlongs on a track listed as good. Field of 6, no changes. Win, play, show, exacta, trifecta, superfecta. It starts the rolling daily doubles, rolling pick 3s, and today's 50-cent pick 5. Dirt listed as good, turf listed as yielding. 5 minutes till post for the first at Hawthorne. Parading here they are, 1 Mystic Storm, Victor Santiago riding. Number 2, Judy's Miss Officer, and Alexis Centeno. Here's number 3, Lucy's Looking Left, Julio Felix up. 4, Stormy Empire with Javier Tavares. 5 is Kitty McLean, Emmanuel Esquivel. 6, Runner's Heat, Emmanuel Giles will bring her to the gate. And they'll all be there in about 5 minutes. Kick off the Sunday program. Dirt track listed as good, turf yielding. 5 minutes. Racing fans, little time remains for you to wager on today's first race here at Hawthorne. This race starts the rolling doubles, rolling pick threes, and the 50-cent pick five. The dirt track is currently listed as good. The turf is currently listed as yielding with the rail set at 10 feet out. The second race has a pick six carryover of $1,020. The seventh race has a mandatory payoff on the high five wager today. There's a carryover of $185,460 that going into that mandatory high five payout on race 7 today. We do thank you for joining us wherever it may be across the betting network. We are close to starting time for race 1. We do urge in all cases to make your selections early. Once again, the dirt track is currently listed as good, turf listed as yielding, rail set at 10 feet out on the turf course. Moving towards the gate, less than a minute, better hurry. Racing fans, looking ahead to today's fourth race, we have an overweight to announce for the first time. In the fourth race, number 6, Magna Massa will now carry 2 pounds over the program weight. That's the fourth race, 6, Magna Massa, now 2 pounds over the program weight. Runners are facing up to the gate for today's first race, first of 7 on the Sunday program. Don't forget mandatory payoff on the high five on the 7th race today. Dirt track fast, turf is yielding. That last race is on the turf course. They're loading up for the first at Hawthorne. Last 2 to go in. Lucy's looking left and runner's heat. Waiting now for runner's heat. She's in. They're all in the gate. They're off. From the outside, Stormy Empire for the lead. Down along the inside, Mystic Storm came away well. Then in between horses, Judy's Miss Officer, Kitty McLean close up. And then it's runner's heat, and Lucy's looking left is the early trailer. A 6-pack of runners for the Sunday opener continue their run on the backstretch with Mystic Storm a little more than a length. Kitty McLean moves up on the outside second. Judy's Miss Officer looks for racing around the rail third. And then it's Stormy Empire fourth. And then towards the inside, Lucy's looking left has moved into fifth. Runner's heat 6, less than 3 furlongs to go. And here's Kitty McLean up to take the lead. Towards the inside, trying to fight back. Mystic Storm still looking for racing room. Judy's Miss Officer. Around the turn, they're in the stretch. Kitty McLean comes off the turn. Towards the inside, Mystic Storm is coming back. Still looking for racing room. Judy's Miss Officer. And then on the outside, Stormy Empire, followed by Lucy's Looking Left. And Runner's Heat inside the final furlong. Mystic Storm has reclaimed the lead. Now Judy's Miss Officer has Racer and she's coming to the leader. But it's Mystic Storm in front as they reach the wire. Judy's Miss Officer second. Stormy Empire up for third. Lucy's Looking Left was fourth.